So angry. Do you know what it is? It's the fact that I've said to him, I've watched you do it. Like, just own it, mate. Like, look, if you're gonna walk up the side of someone's car and scratch it, if the guy actually sees you do it, just put your hands up and say, "Do you know what, mate? I've been a complete twat. I'm so sorry." Do you know what I mean? I'll sort it out. He's just denied it, and I'm like, I've watched you do it. I heard it. That screech down the side of a car.
All right, guys, welcome back to Not Another Whiskey Podcast, another episode with myself, Mitch Beshard, and the incredibly hairy Mr. Daryl Haldane.
Hairy,
how you doing, my friend?
I'm all right. I'm very well. It's Valentine's week, isn't it?
What have you got me?
What? No. Oh, no. That's not how it works. It's what have you got me? What have you got me? You got me a nice wee bottle, a box of chocolates, maybe.
Well, you need to buy me dinner first. That's how it goes. I remember. So I remember one time I went over to Vegas with Mr. Palaki, and it was actually Valentine's Day. And
that's cute.
Yeah, we had dinner. We didn't realize it was Valentine's Day, right? And we're like, oh, shit, it's fucking Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
We go to this restaurant, and obviously it's just all couples. And I'd taken we had these Glenfiddich cufflinks, but it looked like a ring box. So I'd taken that on purpose.
Yeah, because it's the one that opens up. Yeah.
It's got the cufflinks inside.
Yeah.
So right after the meal, I bent down on one knee, and the whole restaurant turned around, and opened the box. Only time I've ever seen Palaki go bright red. It was brilliant.
Did he? Oh, he would have loved that though. Yeah, for a moment, he would have thought you were being serious. Yeah. That's cute.
So good.
I feel quite upset that you've never proposed to me in such a manner.
Well, one of these days, might play your cards right. We'll see.
Yeah, there we go. If I could play the piano, I bet I could serenade you. Yeah.
No, but welcome everyone listening in. Great to have you here. This is going to be one of these episodes where Daz and I just kind of catch up and see what's been going on, not just with our lives, but also within the whiskey news, because there is a lot happening right now. There's a lot going on, right?
Yeah, lots going on. Lots of stuff going on. Businesses and brands. There's lots happening in the markets in terms of tariffs and exciting changes in some places as well. So yeah, it's all happening, mate.
Yeah. But before we get into that, mate, we opened the show there with a bit of a bombshell about your motor. What the fuck is going on?
No, don't worry about it. No. I just caught someone keying in my car. That's all. Yeah.
Just caught someone keying my car. Wait a minute. Let's rewind a little bit here. You walked out and saw someone dragging a key down the whole length of your car.
Yeah, and he doesn't realize that I live here. Yeah.
Fucking raging.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. No.
So what's going to happen?
About it. What is going to happen? Someone's going to fix my car. That's what's going to happen, and that's it. Yeah, it's crazy, mad. I'm so angry. And the what it's like. When you see someone doing something really stupid, and you actually catch them doing it, and the ability of people to just stand there and say, "I didn't do that." It's like, mate, I heard it. Didn't just see it. I actually heard the noise as you walked down the side of the car, and there's quite clearly a massive scratch down both doors. You're going to fix it. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. Mad.
Just own it. Accept it. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's mental.
You're a grown man. You're not a kid.
Totally.
I've just caught you doing it.
Let's get back to whiskey. This isn't Crime Watch.
Yeah. What? There is an argument here, mate, for you moving up to Speyside with me as opposed to being
that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen at the Dalyuen distillery. Yeah.
I mean, it might. The worst thing that's going to happen up here is someone gets their tractor keyed.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? That's the amazing thing. I love that about up north and about the islands and stuff like that. Is you don't lock things, right? Really, I mean, just because it's the nature of the community and everyone kind of looks out for everybody and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm in the city centre, so there are a few sausages flying around. Yeah.
You've got several locks on the door, but just for anyone listening, I do lock my doors up here. If you know where I live, just...
You do, because you've got very expensive whiskey in your abode. Yeah.
Yeah, mate. But what else has been going on apart from getting your car vandalised?
Yeah, I've actually had a couple of good weeks. We've done a few tastings recently. Interestingly, people coming into Scotland, which is really good. That's quite unusual for February, and I don't know how you found it up the road, but normally at this time of year, we're going out to different countries to meet folk. Unusually, there's been a few different groups: Americans, some guys from Taiwan and China, coming into Scotland in February, which is brilliant, right? Great quiet time. It's good to see tourists coming. Had a few brilliant tastings, some nice vintages of Lefroy I was telling you about. We need to taste together actually, because you'll love them. Yeah, so yeah, just bits and pieces like that. Nothing too crazy. I've been here, right? I've been in Scotland, which has been brilliant. Next week I'm up at Glengarry, back up to the kind of Aberdeenshire area, which is brilliant. Like that's a great part of the world. I really enjoy it. And I was up, I'll tell you where I was actually. I was quite fancy last week. I took a little spin up to Gleneagles. And I don't know when you were last at Gleneagles. You know, you're probably there yesterday, knowing you. But what they've done is brilliant. They've launched all of their new cocktail menus in the American bar and in the Century bar, which is like the hotel's main bar. And on the menu, what they've done is really clever. Is they've put on a brilliant list of whiskey flights, so you can go in and explore, you know, different options from those flights. So the day I was there was the day that the menus were kind of going live. So I'm really, really keen to get back up when I'm not driving and stuff, to go up and try some of these whiskey flights and things, because they've got great whiskey range up there. I don't know how much whiskey you enjoy when you're up there, but I usually get up once a year. Well, it is it's expensive, right? When we worked for Diageo owned the Gleneagles Hotel. Yeah. And they weren't, you know, they're not hoteliers, right? Since Ennismore have owned it, I mean, the amount of investment that they've put back into the place is incredible. I found it a great fact. It's unbelievable. Right? So I'll go on a tangent, right? You know, the Balmoral Hotel in Edinburgh, right, used to be called the North British Hotel back in the day, because it's a railway hotel. Gleneagles was the same. It was part of that Great Northern Railway network. So the trains would go up right the way past Gleneagles. And there's actually doors, hatches, which go straight down into the cellars from what used to be the old railway lines and stuff. So, you know, the hotel itself's got an amazing history and things. But what they've done, obviously, over the years is started to invest, as the hotel group has owned it. What that must be 10 years at least, maybe 12. And what they've created is amazing. A lot of people think of it as a golf hotel, right? Because it has the golf courses around it and stuff like that. But only 10% of their guests actually play golf. The rest of them use it, you know, for leisure facilities, you know, food and drink and outdoors activities, pursuits, falconry and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's an amazing place, and they really do. They've just got such a great way of creating little locations where you can go sit and enjoy a brilliant whiskey. You know, the Dormy, you've got the lodge, which is a temporary venue, which has got fires and coziness and all that kind of. It's the Winter Lodge. It's brilliant. And then you've got the bars, which are great. So yeah, look, I was there recently, and every time I go up, I'm even more impressed by kind of what they're achieving and what they're doing. And as a destination for whiskey, I mean, it's top. I bumped into Joe Harrison, the spirits writer. You know, he's done a lot of work in whiskey. Just as I walked in the front door, and Joel and his wife Vic, we're standing there all geared up, ready to go out for like some Land Rover experience or something like that. So it was nice to see Joel. We never got a chance to sit down and have a couple of whiskeys, but we had a wee chat and a wee cuddle before I went in and got on with my work. So no, it's a great place. It was really nice to get back up there.
Mate, it is. And you know, I miss those days when we worked for Diageo and it was owned by Diageo. Because remember, we used to get it for like £80 a room. I mean, you're not even get a cocktail for £80 in there now.
No, and we used to run the Johnny Walker Championships, right? So we would go in and run the bars and the hospitality elements with the team, obviously from Gleneagles back then, and it was brilliant. I used to stay there for about 10 days.
Yeah,
you know,
unbelievable.
Go up, the bar set up, dereg at the end, and then stay there for the 5 days that the tournament was on. It was brilliant. I mean, we had some brilliant times up. Yeah, great place. I've got
you, Jeff, and Baz.
Baz, yeah. And here's a fact. I'm gonna bombard you with facts today, Mitch.
Full of facts today, mate. Look at you.
Gleneagles. The name Haldane, the clan Haldane, is from Gleneagles. And guess what the clan motto is, Mitch?
We're all tiny.
No, suffer. You are
suffer
every time that we do an episode together. Suffer is the motto, the family motto. Yeah. There you go.
That's pretty grim, mate.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah. That's what happens when you key my car. You suffer. Yeah.
You will suffer. No, that's good, mate. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm really impressed with what they've done at Gleneagles. I've been up there a few times now. I haven't actually stayed up there for a while because it's just too expensive now. But yeah, I've been there for a few dinners, a few lunches, and a couple of drams in the past, and they always do a great job. So it's not a bad place to hang out, that's for sure. But yeah, I've been pretty quiet since coming back from Portugal, just to get my ducks in the row for the year, and not really leaving the house, to be honest with you, just hanging out in Speyside and slave to the laptop, which I hate. I don't know about you. I think we're wired the same, right? When you have to do like a load of laptop work, it just drains you. Like I need to be out and about, speaking to people and doing stuff, you know. I've had a couple of meetings with people. I was up at Macallan the other day, chatting to them, your old stomping ground. And then I was down at the Ballindalloch distillery yesterday, chatting to those guys.
Do you know, I've still never been around the Ballindalloch distillery.
Oh, it's a great little spot.
Yeah.
Cool little, tiny little craft distillery, 20,000 litres a year they're making, so hardly anything. But I was up talking about small distilleries as well. I was up at Glenallachie. We were doing some videoing. So doing a little bit of YouTubing for Copper Cairn. So we got a new little video up that just got posted actually before I jumped on here.
You and I were there together just after COVID, remember? It was, we caught up in Speyside and did a bit of a runabout, and we've got a nice photo actually from outside of Glenallachie. It's good. Yeah.
I do like that spot. I mean, it's great, you know.
It's a lovely spot. It is. I haven't actually been in the distillery either, but yeah, you guys brought me back a nice bottle of Glenallachie from there as well. Yeah, you got me one from Raw Whiskies. Single cans, Pedro Jimenez. It was lovely.
Billy's doing a really interesting job there as well, and it'll be interesting to see what he's going to bring out again this year. They're still experimenting with a lot of different casks and different things up there, and the new bar. You haven't seen a new bar. I need to take you up to the new bar next time you come up as well, because they've got a whole new tasting bar in there. Which is
I saw that happen probably about 18 months ago when they kind of renovated it, wasn't it? It was about then. Yeah, look, I think they do a lot of cask finishes. He was the real master, right? Or one of the masters of using sherry casks in the right way. In Glendronach, what they did was, you know, really kind of at the top end of some of those experiments and stuff. And cask finishing, we'll come on to that a little bit later, in terms of what it brings and when is it too much or too little as well, right? Because that's something that the purist doesn't really like too much tinkering with, you know. But there are some great examples of whiskies that might have 2 or 3 cask finishes, which are sensational. And I don't know, it's a bit of a love and hate relationship with cask finishing. And when does it become a gimmick versus when is it actually adding value to the whiskey that's being looked after inside those various different casks? So we'll come on to that a little bit later, because there was a Guinness World Record broken very recently on that point.
Absolutely, mate, absolutely. But, you know, the other bit of crazy news was I landed from Portugal and I had about 4 or 5 messages from people. My phone was like blowing up, and it was blowing up on our Instagram as well, because both of our live tastings for Spirit Speyside sold out within 12 hours of getting put up on the website, which is insane. So, mate, not only have we sold out both of those tastings, but we also got shortlisted for the best new event of Spirit Speyside. So congratulations to us. So to all you guys who didn't manage to get a ticket, we apologize for that. But if you are going to be in Speyside, then hopefully we can hang out and grab a dram at the Highlander or something afterwards.
Yeah,
or the
we'll be around, right?
Hotel.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be
You're
around.
coming up, aren't you?
Well, look, I think I need to. You mentioned Macallan earlier. Tom's obviously moved away to the Craigellachie Hotel, and I would love to just go and say hello and check in and see how he's getting on over there, because he's a great guy everywhere he's been. You know, in Edinburgh, he was at Glen Eagles for a while. He then ended up obviously up the road up at Macallan, and great to see, you know, someone like him with his experience and stuff at the Craigellachie, because the Craigellachie is such a legendary spot, right? You know, history, you know, tells you that it's a really important whiskey location. Many years ago, I don't know if you know this, Mark Vardson, our dear friend over at Highland Park, you know, he was the bar manager at the Craigellachie Hotel back in the day. And there's some great pictures of him holding court with one arm on the bar, proper landlord style, which is great. And obviously there's a few whiskey folk will remember him being there, but a lot of people don't realize that that's ultimately where his whiskey journey kind of started, which is very cool.
I did not know that until we did whiskey talks together, and he told me that while we were on stage during whiskey talks, and I was like, what hasn't this guy done? You know what I mean? Like,
he's done loads of stuff.
Boxer.
He was Danish champion boxer, ex-forces, doorman for a long time. And he's just an amazing guy, and he's really into his jazz music. He's a real enigma, Martin. He looks nothing like who he is, basically, you know. If there was ever an advert for
Sure,
not
sure, sure.
judging someone by how they look, Martin McVardson is certainly one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to get him back on the show. If you guys don't know who we're talking about here, go back, check out one of our, I think it might have been season 2 episodes where we had him
Yeah.
on talking all things Highland Park, and yeah, it was great having him on the show. Anyway, mate, let's move on to the news.
Yes.
I think probably first off, let's address the elephant in the room, tariffs, right? I mean, that's been the kind of hot topic right now with the new government coming into the US. We're seeing quite a lot of movement in tariffs that are getting imposed in Canada and Mexico, potentially coming over to Europe. The UK hasn't been talked about yet, so I think it's quite a sort of nervous time for everyone over here. Everyone producing Scotch whiskey, anyway, right?
Yeah, the US is a massive market, and it is one of the markets where certainly in like the single malt area, it still seems to be growing, right? There's still a desire for great single malts, and you know yourself, like you've lived out there. We're still scratching the surface, I think, in some ways with single malts, right? There's loads of cities where, you know,
Emerging
single
market.
malts. Yeah, it really is. You know, it's so many markets, isn't it? The US, if you look at it like that, state by state, and we've still got a lot of work to do to engage with those consumers across that country. And it happened in 2019, right? To 2021, where, you know, it definitely affected, you know, the performance of whiskey over there, Scotch whiskey, that is. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I hope that Mr. Trump leans into his Scottish heritage and does the right thing and kind of leaves it be. But yeah, we'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well, we're going to expand on this aspect of what's going on in Scotch whisky, and we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end of the show. On to more positive notes. You know, the big one that blew up, and this was all over my feed, and I imagine it would have been on yours as well, Daz, was Harrison Ford doing the Glenmorangie adverts, which was a bit of a bombshell that I woke up to, and I was like, whoa, this is fucking great. I'm loving this.
Do you know, I don't really watch many movies, as you know. I know who Harrison Ford is, and I know he was in Indiana Jones.
Star Wars.
Star Wars. I'm not a big Star Wars person, so it's like I know he's an actor and he's a famous American guy. I like his humor. You know, I think the way that he comes across, he's quite self-deprecating, and he just genuinely seems like quite a nice man. And he obviously loves a wee dram, which is brilliant. Other than that, I don't really have an opinion on it. I like the way that they've kind of let him be himself. And that's my only observation. It's obviously a lot of people that have commented or that have like shared things with me and things, you know, have an affinity with him for one reason or another. Maybe he was in their favorite movie, or they followed his career because he's, you know, a well-known actor or whatever it might be. I don't really have the thing. I mean, ultimately, when you take a big step back and you look at what's happened in the States with tequila as a great example, with celebrity endorsements, we saw it with vodka in the past as well. It's a great marketing tool to link a brand with someone who shares those values, right? We've talked about this in whiskey in the past. We obviously did the Offerman stuff with Lagavulin a couple of years ago, and where we looked and dived into that kind of area. It's the same theme. It looks like a great pairing, and I like the little links back to the heritage marketing from Glenmorangie, which we watched when we were kids on telly, right, in between Friday night and Saturday night TV. And the Glenfiddich and the Glenmorangie adverts would come on intermittently throughout the evening. And I love those adverts. I always, when I see them, immediately takes me back to being on a couch at my nana's house or at my folks or whatever it was. So, you know, there's a little bit of that in there, which I do quite like. It's quite a novel, like quite a sentimental thing that maybe only British people might, or Scottish people even might get. But there is a link to that, which is quite cool. It's quite clever.
No, I think it's great, mate. Like, you know, when I watched them all back to back, and for anyone listening that hasn't seen these, you know, go onto YouTube, check them out. I think it's 6 episodes. They're only about a minute. Maybe the longest one's 2 minutes. But it's all about Harrison Ford's journey to Scotland. It starts off with him reading a script, you know, and kind of going, oh, they want me to be the action man. Just kind of screw that. And he crumples up the bit of paper and chucks it in the fire, right? And then the next thing he's talking to his agent. He's over in Scotland. He's at Glenmorangie, and then he's at Castle. And they kind of do, what I liked about it was they do the stereotypes of Scotland, but they do it in a way that's kind of taking the piss out of it, you know. And like you say, Harrison Ford does seem like he was himself. And I love the fact that they got the distillery workers involved in this as well. You know, when he goes up to the guy Alan and he thinks he's the the creative director, but it's just Alan that works in the warehouse. Like we need to get Alan on the show.
Get Alan on,
from Glenmorangie.
totally.
Totally. Let's ask him how it was like chatting to Harrison Ford, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool.
No, it would be cool. It was all filmed at Ardross Castle, right?
That's
Which
right,
is just up from Invergordon. That's where Traitors is filmed.
I did not know that, but my wife did.
Ah, well, there we go. Traitors was filmed there. It's an amazing castle that used to belong to the Mathesons. And the Mathesons, going back, were the owners of Dalmore. They're the family that have, remember we were on Lewis, the big castle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's their gaff
Lewis
as
Castle.
well.
Yeah.
That's the same
Gotcha.
guys. Yeah, so it's
look at you and your buildings today, eh? You're just like a fucking I was going to say archaeologist, but I'm thinking
an archaeologist. Well, that ties in quite nicely with our dear friend Harrison Ford. I mean, an amateur one, I would say, less adventurous and definitely less successful. But no, look, it was very cool, and it was an interesting one. And as you say, it definitely created a lot of conversation just around the collaboration. You know, was that the right choice or not?
Yeah,
I think by and large, it seems to have been a good decision. Yeah.
And from a selfish point of view, having a company that specializes in people wanting to see whiskey distilleries and have a whiskey experience in Scotland, it plays into the copper cairn aspect of it really well. So for me, I was happy about that when it came out. So thanks, Glenmorangie. In all seriousness, I think Glenmorangie is doing a great job. We've talked about this on the show before. They always hit the mark, I feel, with their marketing and do a really good job both on Glenmorangie and Ardbeg.
Yeah, look, I think also for you, I mean, seeing a man, how old is he? 84?
Yeah.
Is he 84?
I'm not 84 yet, if that's what you're going to get to.
Seeing an elderly chap, you know, still working well into his 80s, it must be quite reassuring for you as well, Mitch. There's
Fuck you, Daz.
There's at least a decade left in the industry for you.
See, this is one of the reasons why we don't record these live, because I'd want to knock you out right now.
Yeah.
So let's chat about our friends over at Loch Lomond, mate.
Yep.
Creating a new visitor centre, right, on Luss, which is a beautiful little town right on the shores of Loch Lomond. So great news for these guys to have a hub, because for anyone that's been to the Loch Lomond distillery, it's an amazing distillery to visit. I mean, you can geek out there so much. You know, you get Gary Mills taking you around there, and he just tells you about all the different stills they have there, and it is incredible. But, and I know they won't be sad about me saying this, it's not the prettiest place in the world, right? It's quite industrial. So
it is industrial. It's an old paper mill. That building.
Yeah. So it's not the prettiest of distilleries. So
no.
Great that they've had approval for this visitor centre on Luss. I was kind of surprised, because have you been to Luss before? You must have been a few times, right?
Yeah, I've been down that way. Yeah.
It's quite a small town, and it's so busy anyway, which is going to be great for them. But something that's going to attract more visitors, it always seems like, and correct me if you're from Luss or you know the place well, write in, I want to know this, but it seems like it's a place where you're welcome, but you're not welcome. You know, there's like massive signs before you go in saying, do not park, like, do not bring your car past this point.
It's day trippers, right? It's tricky in a place like that, because the people are just coming from the city down for the day. Look, they have a great 100%. Time, and obviously they spend money and keep the economy thriving. Great. But like you say, it's like there's places like that, aren't there, that are by the water and stuff, where people just leave their car because they just don't want to walk, or they don't know where to park, probably. And as a local, it must be a nightmare.
It must drive you nuts. Yeah.
Totally. But brilliant for them to have a distillery. I assumed it was going to be a gin distillery, but on closer inspection, it does seem they're going to be producing whiskey there at some point, which is very cool.
There is another new distillery that's had planning permission approved, which is the Tory Distillery. Good news for Aberdeen. It's going to be in Aberdeen. It's the old Bonaccord juice factory there, which is in a bit of disrepair, apparently. So this is a gentleman called Mike Bain, who already has the Burnabenny distillery, and he's going to be redoing this. So interesting to see that a distillery is going to be opening up in Aberdeen, which is great for Aberdeen. It's I go up to Aberdeen. It's only an hour away from me, and I think anyone who's been to Aberdeen recently or is living there, it's going through hard times, right? It's one of these cities that was very reliant on oil and not really kind of pushing itself as a city for tourism, for other things apart from oil. It really kind of relied on that aspect of it. So it's kind of finding its feet a little bit in trying to get back from that now. So things like this are great for the city of Aberdeen to push it forward. And it'd be cool having another distillery in that neck of the woods, because that's one of the things that we struggle with is if people are doing stuff in Aberdeen, whiskey wise, there's not really anything for them to do. Glengarry, like you've mentioned earlier, the closest distillery really right now that you can go and visit, which is
totally.
still a solid hour away,
Yeah, this is it. I do think certainly from a whiskey point of view, people fly into Aberdeen and they get picked up and they leave, right, and then they move on.
Yeah, straight into Speyside.
Straight into Speyside or even out further west. So yeah, no, you're right. Obviously, the Grill is an iconic whiskey pub, right, in Aberdeen, and it's one of those ones that you must visit, whenever you're in town. But it doesn't feel like there's a huge amount of reasons in terms of whiskey to be knocking about in Aberdeen. A couple of hotels have actually got some brilliant whiskey ranges. The Adamson has a brilliant whiskey range. I stayed there a couple of years ago and met Johnny McCormack, the whiskey writer, and he and I got through some brilliant whiskies. I mean, really old bottlings and stuff like that, which is quite rare in Scotland. You do find that the bottlings from yesteryear don't tend to hang around on our shelves very long, but they had some really, really interesting stuff. So yeah, no, I'm really pleased to see that. Good for Aberdeen.
And then moving from Aberdeen to Edinburgh, our friends up over at Holyrood have been busy as well.
Yeah, look, I just thought it was worth mentioning. I saw a couple of bits and pieces knocking about over the last few days, just of their peated expression being launched, and that's their second release. So Embra was the first, right? And this is almost like a smoky version of that, which is coming up. So just thought it was worth mentioning. And a distillery that's not far from me. We've had the guys on a couple of times over the years, and yeah, it's an interesting one. I'll nip along and see if I can pick a bottle up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to correct you about a whiskey in your hometown, mate, but I think it's their third release.
Is it their third? Is it?
Because they had the inaugural, and then Edinburgh, and then
that's true.
This one.
True. Okay.
So cool graphics on it though. I like this kind of spray paint, kind of graffiti style graphics they've got on it.
And I think it was a little bit smoke heady, but to a lesser extent, color wise, and a bit of that edge to it, an urban feel. Let's call it that.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I mean, I think it's always good. Holyrood's going to be an interesting one, right? Because they got so many different styles that they're producing. They're never going to have a house style, so you're always going to have a different whiskey coming from Holyrood, which I don't think I know any other Scottish distillery that does that. So that's the end of the news. But one of the things I want to bring up is just something that we touched on the last sort of catch-up episode, right? Where we talked about Glenglassaugh, and we talked about this closing of Glenglassaugh, which at the time there was a lot of news. It wasn't even news. It was someone who used to work there that posted about what's happening, and it's going to be mothballed and it's going to be completely closed. And then a lot of other people sort of picked up on that. And there was a lot of clickbait headlines about Glenglassaugh closing. And that was put out without any sort of official line from Brown-Forman, right?
Yeah.
And looking back on it, it's a bit annoying. I was chatting with Fraser Campbell that I work with from Copper Cairn. We're discussing this. It's not healthy for these headlines to be coming out right now with the state of Scotch whisky and what's going on. Glenglassaugh isn't closing down completely. They're scaling down production a bit. The visitor centre is still going to be open, as they've always done, by appointment only. But the whole distillery isn't closing. I don't think it's beneficial for us within the whisky industry to be seeing these headlines. There's a few people out there that are doing it right now. You know who you are. I'm not going to name you, but let's just keep it calm a little bit. You don't need people clicking on all your stuff to make everyone else fucking paranoid. There's a lot of people within the Scotch whisky industry that rely on this industry, and it's their livelihood. So doing things like that does not help us. That's it. That's my soapbox rant. Now that Palaki's gone, I've got to do this now and again.
You've got to be the rant. I'm not a ranter, really. So yeah,
I'll
let you. I'm more interested in pointless facts. But this sort of turning down and turning up of stills is something that we've seen in the past. And what is really interesting, in the last 5 years, we've seen Rosebank, Brora, and Portellen both being revived. Distilleries that closed in the early 80s and early 90s. So there's a lot of macro positiveness to be focusing on. Over the long term, which whiskey is, right? It's an old industry, and it's less about spikes and cliff edge drops. It's much more of a kind of undulating, ebbing and flowing of market dynamics. Nothing happens particularly fast across whiskey generally. And I think, yeah, whilst there are some challenges, there are lots and lots of opportunities as well, right? And that's where the positivity and the good energy and stuff like that, I think, is really key to remind people of, whilst there might be some challenges, there's some opportunities there too.
100%, mate. Well said. And on that point, what Daz and I are planning to do over the next 3 episodes, we're going to be releasing a series called The Future of Whiskey, and we're going to be digging into different aspects of what is happening within the whiskey industry, getting some guest speakers on here. So you're literally going to be hearing it from the horse's mouth. We're not going to be doing any clickbait about how the industry's in a terrible situation right now, but we're going to have an honest conversation about different aspects of whiskey. So looking back and seeing what happened in the past and what can be learned for the future. The marketing of whiskey as well, how that is different from now. And also, I think a big one is how much whiskey are we making? How many new distilleries are opening up? And how is that going to affect our future of whiskey? So that's going to be a 3-part series that we're going to be releasing with some very good friends of ours that have been on the show before. So the likes of Ian Miller, Brendan McCarran, and Ken Greer. So really, really big names within the whiskey industry. We're going to be getting their opinions on what's happening right now and hopefully giving you guys a bit of an insight as well into the world of whiskey at the moment and where we stand.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, thinking about who we've got coming on, right? If you look at Ian Miller is a guy with so much experience, from a distilling point of view through different decades, and I think if you look across the piece, there are kind of 15 to 20 year cycles, within whiskey, and Ian, has seen probably 2 of those or 3 of those, perhaps even throughout his career. He really is one of those guys who has experienced, the probably the hardest and some of the best times. He also looked after the advocacy side of stuff as well. So he's not just a production dude. Here's a guy who's got a feel for markets and where things are and how things can be done. Brendan, obviously, I'm fascinated with Brendan, obviously being a maltings guy at the start, moving into distilling, then into whiskey making. And now I know he's working across, multiple projects internationally as well. So he brings an amazing wealth of experience, and Ken's, well known for his role in developing the Macallan as a brand globally. And he now, is running around various businesses as a consultant. And he is one of these dudes that's looked at for his insight and his experience, his feel for what's going on, because he is one of these brilliant emotional marketers who has done things that research probably would have told you not to do, but the results are pretty evident. So yeah, looking forward to catching up with all of them. Very different characters, seeing the world probably from very different perspectives, but they'll give us brilliant insight, I'm sure of it.
100%, mate, 100%. But I think that's us, man. Good catch up. Good seeing your little face. And
I wanted to share something before we go, Mitch. Okay. And it's linked to one of your.
To do with Valentine's Day?
No, it's to do with Burns Night. Yeah. So you're not getting away with it. I did tell you I would bring it back up. Have you got I was looking at I was actually looking at some news, right? And there was a Guinness World Record for the number of different flavors within a bottle, which was achieved at the end of January. Were you aware of this?
No.
You weren't? Okay. So there's a brand called Johnson Reserve, and they have used 33 different casks to create as many flavors as possible within whiskey. Kind of touched on this a little bit earlier about finishes and stuff like that. I'm sure you'll share your opinion very shortly. And it made me think, whiskey and world records is, there's been lots, and a lot of it was focused on price for a few years, but now it seems to be more about, biggest bottle or whatever that is that's going on. Do you have any Guinness World Records, Mitch?
Unfortunately not, mate. I wish I did. I think probably for the world's worst banter, maybe.
Yeah. No, that you do have that. Actually, I submitted that on your behalf with many of the viewers, and I didn't really appreciate the poll that you put out on Instagram a few weeks ago about is the banter better now that Nick's away and Daz is back, and I obviously I've made some enemies. The feedback was not good. So when we sit down,
you voted for yourself to say you had bad banter.
I did. I know that's fair, but I'm being honest. My self-awareness is at an extreme high. I actually have held a world record in whiskey for hosting the world's largest burn supper with
Mm.
the Scottish Grocers Federation, which was in Glasgow back in 2019, I think it was, at the start of 2019. So I'm a world record holder. You're very lucky to be spending time with me, and I just want you to be aware of that. And it did
So
make me
your
think.
name, wait. Your name's actually in the
It,
Guinness
it might actually
World
be.
Record.
I don't know if my name was in it. I got sent a copy though of the book.
Oh, that's very
Yeah.
cool, mate. So how many
Do you want to
people
hear
was
it?
it?
Oh, it was like 1,020, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really big. And guess what happened the year after? Stevie
Tell me.
Martin did the same event and beat my world record.
How many
Raging.
people?
Yeah, yeah. I think you had like 10 more people in the room. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you're an ex-world record holder,
I
mate.
am an
You're
ex.
not.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. But
That's still a good claim to fame, though, right?
it is a good claim to fame, and I just thought you should learn a little bit something about me that you didn't know. But I did see that world record about those flavors, which I must dig into and actually find out how they did that, because I had a quick scan of the article and it basically said verified by professionals. This whiskey, so that loads of people have just nosed it and gone, yeah, it does smell like quite a complex whiskey. So yeah, by default, it's a world record holder. I don't know if they did
Well,
gas chromatography and mass spectrometry and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. Well, let's dig into that and see what it was. If you guys listening have heard about that or know about it, then write in, let us know.
Yep. Okay. Yep, mate. Well, look, that's us for the day. Great episode. Great to catch up, sir. I'm really, really looking forward to these future of whiskey episodes and getting tucked into the great minds that are Ian Miller, Brendan McCarran, and Ken Greer. Have a great weekend. Don't have a great weekend. You've already had a great weekend because it's Sunday.
Indeed, mate. And thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
See ya.